break. I promise you that. So this was a tweet that came out from Chad Forbes, and I can't remember how many followers he has. He had a decent following. I don't know exactly what the sources were, but he says in extension talks with Go Pack Go, obviously the Green Bay Packers, Zach Tom is asking for over $25 million per season per sources. All right. So I want to ask everybody in here in the chat, let us know. Let's keep it a good, nice, easy number there. $25 million. Would you be willing to pay Zach Tom $25 million average annual value? And now I'm going to talk about what I think that number is coming out of the gate, and then we'll break down his fair market value, all that stuff. Let's go around the horn with it once. Tim, I think I know your answer. You said it here at the top of the show. Would you be willing to pay Zach Tom $25 million average annual per?
Yeah, and I'll pay for the gas for the Brinks truck to back up and drop that off at his house, for sure. I think fair market is somewhere north of 21.5 or something they were saying. So if he wants to be north of 25, give him 26 and get it done, or whatever, 25.2 or whatever you got to do. But you got to pay the man his money, man. He's the best offensive lineman on our team.
Yeah. Bungie Cheddar Bug in the chat says, pay the man. H.E. Soder says, are you signing Rasheed Walker? If it comes down to him and Zach Tom, no. If it's something that you say, hey, look, we're going to sign both, I would be okay with Rasheed Walker getting an extension for the right price. Nowhere near, and I mean nowhere near that $25 million, right?
Yeah.
If you could get me Rasheed Walker for $10 million per on average, a little bit more guaranteed money to sweeten the pot for him a touch, I'd be okay with it. But not anywhere near Zach Tom. He has not played like Zach Tom. Rasheed Walker is a good pass blocker, not so good run blocking, that's for sure. 2-0 for this says, or I'm sorry, too full of youth for this. You guys, I swear.
He had to change his name. He's younger than all of us. So
right. He's worth more than that, is what he says. Emilio, what do you think, man? $25 million, would you do it?
I think it's a screaming deal. That's almost a clearance tag right there. Or maybe that's one you can put on 12 months, no interest kind of payment there. But it seems like, it's like one of those, Clay, where you got the green bar in Madden, right? You got to re-sign him. He's happy with the team. He's got the green bar. Just don't lowball the guy. Give him a number he's happy with. Make sure it's something that you're comfortable with, obviously. But sometimes you just have to go ahead and do it. I mean, you paid Jordan Love. You went ahead and did it. Let's go ahead and protect we've been talking about building that wall, or at least I have for, months now. That thing needs to protect Jordan Love, right? So why bring in Banks and pay him and not go ahead and pay your right tackle that's given his blood, sweat, and tear already to this team?
Yeah. Ron Sanville says, yes, $25 million. What about guarantees? For me, the guaranteed number, the closer you can get to 30 on the guaranteed, that's a screaming deal right there. Screaming deal. Do a 4-year, $100 million contract with $30 million guaranteed. The problem is I don't think he would take that. I think he's going to be looking to get somewhere between 40 and 50 million guaranteed. And when you break it down like that, let's see, Chris Casualian, 100 for 4, 50 guaranteed. There you go. That I would be okay with that too, Chris. And the reason being is it's a 4-year deal, right? Let's say you do a 4-year deal with 100 million, 50 million guaranteed. The way that Goody likes to structure that, if for some reason Zach Tom falls off and he's not the guy that we've seen the first 3 years in the league, which I believe with everything in me, he is an absolute dog at right tackle. If that's the case, then after year 2, you're going to be able to get enough of that money back. You're going to be eating a dead cat, but you're going to come out in the black there, right? So I could be on board with that as well. I don't think that's a bad number that he just mentioned. Let's see here. What else we got in the chat? Ed Madden, if he asked for 25, give it to him. And you see, this is what I want to get into, Ed. I'm glad you said that, man. The fact that you've got to look into, okay, first of all, Chad Forbes, let's pretend, all right, let's assume that he knows what the heck he's talking about. There's one of two camps that this information got into Chad Forbes' hands from, either the Green Bay Packers or Zach Tom's agent.
Yep.
Right? And if you want to know Zach Tom's agent, it's this guy right here. I don't know if I trust this guy. This is Michael Hoffman with Slam, okay? He represents –
and that looks like a dude who gets guys paid for a living, man. Look at that guy.
That looks like a dude that Goody would just eat his lunch.
Paying everyone but his barber, right?
Damn, Tim, coming in hot tonight. So anyway, if that is the case, who do you guys think leaked that out? I don't think the Packers leaked it out.
No,
right?
that's his camp for sure.
I think it's his camp. Maybe they're not happy with and listen, people are going to hear this. They're going to clip it and go, "Oh, Zach Tom's pissed off at the Packers." No, he's been to everything. I think he's the type of guy that would play on the current contract. He wouldn't hold out, me personally. But obviously, we don't want to go down that route. I think it's them maybe not if it came from their camp, which I think we'd agree it probably did. Probably not happy with the speed in which things are moving. So let's just amp it up a little bit. Hey, we're asking for $25 million. When I seen that number, I immediately thought, that's fair. I don't think anybody in the chat disagrees with it either, So you do that and you put pressure on the Packers now, like, oh crap, okay. It's
going
out
off
there.
for 17 milli.
It's out there. He's not trying to become the highest paid tackle. That's out there in the public now. So it puts a little pressure on the Packers. Now, here's what I think is good news. Guys, when they say over 25 million per, it didn't say over 26. It didn't say over 28. It didn't say over 30. It says over 25. That's the starting point. So if the Packers come back at 18 million per, 16 million per, and then they come back and say, how about 21? Boom, deal done.
Right.
That's typically how these negotiations work. And the guaranteed money will determine the overall value of the contract. Obviously.
That's the big thing, right? The guarantee,
Absolutely.
I mean, and let's be honest, if Penei Sewell is worth north of whatever he is, 28 or 29 million.
28.
28? Okay, so I don't think it's unreasonable for Zach Tom to want to be north of 25. I really don't.
Right. I was just going to say, just looking at some of the top five based on value, you got Penei Sewell, Tim was saying, at 28 average, Christian Darrisaw, Minnesota, 26 average, and Brian O'Neill, Minnesota, 18.5 average. There's two teams, the Broncos and Minnesota, both have two tackles paid at the top 10 for value, over the contract. Obviously, some of them aren't over 25, but the fact that you have guys getting, teams that are paying two tackles at the same time brings up that Rashid point, but also, hey, you can afford to make that payment, man. If there's somebody in the North, there's two teams in the North that are making that payment right now, we can do the same.
Yeah, or like Clayton said too, right? You put it out there that you want north of 25, you'll take 21 or 22 or 20.
Oh, you're wheeling and dealing. That's
or even lower if most of the contract's guaranteed, right?
Right.
Yeah. Deadfish in the chat says, what is he making this year? Looking at his contract, here's what's crazy. He got the escalator, right? It's the 2025 proven performance escalator available, the top tier of that. So his cap hit starting when he first came in the league, 2022, $831,000, $996,000, $1.1 million, and then last year he got the escalator. If you guys don't know what that is, Romeo Dobbs qualified for it as well. It goes, I think, with playing time. There might be production attached as well, but it's in the CBA that these late round picks, if they play a certain amount of play time, then they'll get an extra little something in the pot there. His jumped to $3.5 million last year, and the reason I bring this up is Zach Tom has been a top 5 tackle, a top 5, probably a top 3 right tackle the last 2 years. And he was only 1.1 against the cap and 3.5 against the cap. 3.5 against the cap this year. I'm sorry. 2023, less than $1 million. 2024, last year, 1.1 million. So
time is over, right? We've been getting him for the low for too long. He's got to get paid. Absolutely.
Completely agree, Tim. So that's why I'm not gonna BS you guys. I'm a little worried that Goot's going to insult him because we've seen this in the past, right?
Oh, Devontae Adams all over again?
You know what I'm saying? It's like, and different, they didn't do that to Devontae with his first contract extension. That's what's on our side here, right? Like they tend to treat that second contract a lot better than most guys do. Yeah. So hopefully there's nothing there. I'm just saying that's in the back of my mind, like a little PTSD, like, a little worried about that. So let's talk about what the market value is here according to SpotTrack. All right. Here's the market value breakdown. You guys know how this works if you are familiar with SpotTrack's website. What they do is they find comparable players. Okay. Here are the 4 comparable players that they found: Penei Sewell, Jonah Williams, Spencer Brown, and Jawan Taylor. Okay, each of them, actually, Penei Sewell, Spencer Brown, and Jawan Taylor all signed 4-year deals. Jonah Williams signed a 2-year deal. Okay, the value in terms of average annual value or average annual salary is $28 million for Penei Sewell, $15 for Jonah Williams, $18 for Spencer Brown, and $20 for Jawan Taylor, okay? And the ages in which they were signed, 23, 26, 26, and 25. What you're going to do is take all of those with the comp players and average it up, okay? So the average will be 4 years, $73.5 million, with an average salary of $20.2 million, and the average age or the age when signed was 25, right? So now you go to the base calculated value. Here's some of the key statistics, the key metrics in which teams truly negotiate contracts off of, all right? Game played percentage. Penei Sewell, 100%. Jonah Williams, 100%. Spencer Brown, 93. Jawan Taylor, 100, okay? So that averages out to a 98.4 percent game played percentage. Zach Toms is 97, so just a minus 1.45% change there. All right. Moving on to quarterbacks hurried allowed per game. Going down the line, starting at Penei Sewell, 1, 1.4, 1.9, 1.0, 1.3 is the average is 1.3. Zach Tom, 1.4. So slightly less value there as well at minus 4.4. All right. Now, quarterback sacks allowed per game, starting at Penei Sewell, 0.09, 0.61, 0.29, 0.32 for an average of 0.33. Look at Zach Tom, 0.15. Yeah. He made him some money there, right?
Yeah. There's Zach Tom, Penei Sewell, and everyone else when it comes to that, right?
So that's a positive game of 54.55. And then the rating, all right, the overall rating, it comes down to, let's see, 85.5, 59.8, 59.7, 59.5 for an average of 66.15. Look at Zach Tom's 82.7. All right. So what you've got is a median prime change, percentage change of 11.7%, average prime percentage change of 18.4%. So that gives you your calculated market value for Zach Tom sitting at 4 years, $86.7 million, 21.6 average annual salary. And it doesn't specify what the guarantees would be there. On that, that's just the average annual salary. So if you were to be able to get him for 4 years, $86 million, guarantee him $50 million. I'm totally on board with that, right? Because that $50 million being fully guaranteed is way more flexible to be able to maneuver around the salary cap as opposed to salary and how roster bonuses, things like that work. So what's y'all's thoughts on that? Do y'all feel like that's a pretty fair assessment of his value? I think it's spot on, man.
Yeah, I think that's not a bad number at all. I was just going to ask you, Clay, do you think the 50 guaranteed has to be, no matter kind of what the deal is, do you think that it needs to be at least 50 guaranteed to make this move?
I think it needs to be at least 30 million. But if you're going to lower the overall, like we were talking about $100 million down
right
to 86, the lower you bring that number, the more the guarantee needs to be.
I got you. That's what you're saying. Yep.
Yeah, players will typically take a less average annual value for more guaranteed money. And not practical guaranteed either. Signing bonus, the day of type thing, right?
Right.
Because you get into the fully guaranteed, right, of the contract, and that's where you get into some, just like Ja. That was considered guaranteed money, that $16 million. Well, he didn't get it. It wasn't guaranteed. Well, it's practical guaranteed, right? So if he made the roster, which we knew he wasn't going to because they were ready to move on. So,
right.
Tim, what do you think, man? How do you feel about that number there? 4 years, $86.7 million, man. Run that check over to the bank. Drive him over to the bank. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Call him an Uber, whatever. Get him a limousine, gas up the chopper, whatever you got to do. Get the man paid.
Get to the chopper.
I think it's fair. I really do. And we got to remember, he just turned 26, I believe, a couple of months ago. So he's right in that sweet spot. You got to lock him in now. Keep him here past 30. Let's get it done.
Yeah. So when you look at the highest paid right tackles and average annual value across the league, let's just keep it sorted by average here, okay? Penei Sewell, $28 million. Lane Johnson, $25. Jawan Taylor, $20. Mike Onwenu, I think is how you say it. Onwenu, I think is how you say it. $19 million. Titus Howard, 18.6. Brian O'Neill, 18.5. Spencer Brown, 18. Taylor Moton, 17.5. Braden Smith, 17.5. Mike McGlinchey, Notre Dame's finest, 17.5. And Terrence Steele, 16.5. But again, you really want to key in on those comps, right? Those are the ones. And the thing that's going to help Zach Tom make that money, I'm telling you, is quarterback sacks allowed per game. And he might want to give Jordan a little kickback on that because Jordan's ability to evade the sack I remember that statistic about halfway through the season last year. We were like, man, this dude, he does not take sacks. It's one thing Jordan does well. Now, got to get better at the interceptions, obviously. But that number there, if you've got a quarterback that can get away from the sack, that helps with the negotiations for your contract if you're an offensive lineman, right? So, so there you go. And again, we just wanted to mention it was his sports agent is Michael Hoffman with Slam. That's who represents Zach Tom. So,
and that's just looking at right tackles too. That chart there, because I was looking at one with the left tackles. You have Tristan Wirfs as the highest paid at 28.12. Then you got Trent Williams 27.5, Christian Darrisaw 26. Then Lane Johnson actually at 25. He's a right tackle. So if Penei Sewell's 28 as a right tackle, Lane Johnson's 25 as a right tackle, is Zach Tom better than the next right tackle there, Jawan Taylor? Yeah, right. Yeah, I would say Zach Tom's definitely better than him, and Jawan Taylor's sitting at 20. So I think you can plop him kind of anywhere in between 20 and 28.12, and we would be extremely happy with it. Obviously, if we can keep it on the lower side of 25, we'd be ecstatic. But Goody cannot. I mean, I don't think he will, but Goody really can't just shortchange him on this one.
Yeah. Let's see here. Greg Rice in the chat. Where's Jacob on a date with AFAM's mom? And AFAM's mom says, not with me. I'm home alone eating a burrito. It's just so random, but yet specific. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. All right. Anything else on the Zach Tom contract there?
I mean, I feel like AFAM's mom and Zach Tom's agent have the same barber, you know?
It did kind of look like that, too. Let's get a comp here real quick. Drop it down. Let's see. Yeah, I see it. You're right.
Same kind of fade, right, going on.
Yeah. He's got to work on his eyebrow game to catch up to her. All right. What kind of burrito? Y'all are off the charts tonight, guys. All right. So anything else on the Zach Tom contract? I think we covered it pretty extensively. I think this is good news that they're on their way to getting this deal done, right? H.E. Solder says Packers need either Morgan, Glover, or Banks to hit at offensive tackle this year. Go ahead, Emilio.
Now,
did we say Glover? Did we say Travis Glover?
Only reason I highlighted it, baby. Get that man a contract once he does something for us, right? And let's see how the offseason goes. But no, I get that, man. Morgan and Banks needs to hit because we paid him. Morgan needs to hit because we drafted him high. Yep. And Glover just needs to hit for my sanity.
Unbelievable, man. When that playoff game happened against Philly and Glover had to come in, I was not happy, right? I wasn't happy with that. I was like, oh, man, but I did think the silver lining, Tim, was now Emilio was shut up about Travis Glover. Bro, he dug in deeper.
Come on now. You can't be putting him in first in a playoff game and not have a little bit of respect for the man.
Dude, that's why if he pops off this year, man, we're never going to hear the end of it.
If for some reason we come out to camp and Travis Glover's a story and they end up trading Rasheed Walker and we're thinking, yeah, Jordan Morgan's going to kick the left tackle, and they throw Travis Glover out there and he's the next David Bakhtiari, you have no idea how bad I want that to happen. Just because we're going to pull the clips from 2 years in a row of Emilio just drooling over this dude.
Well, because I remember somebody in the chat said, Glover's not even going to make the 53. And man, if he makes the 53, we are cooking with Crisco.
Yep.
Chuck Jaggers in the chat says the Packers are still walking backwards from those penalties. Yeah. Clint says Glover for long snapper. There you go. That might be his role.